As Iron Lad and the rest of his superhero team clash with the Maker and his cabal, the real battle is still for the hearts and minds of regular, everyday people. But is it a battle they can win? Well, let's hop into the pages of the Ultimates issue number 16 and find out together, shall we? So I think we can all agree one of the best things about this new Ultimates book under Dennis Camp is how even though it is a team book, it really isn't afraid to shift around perspectives. And in that regard, this issue makes probably the biggest creative swing so far. That is, this issue actually doesn't follow around any heroes at all. Instead, our POV is just a regular young woman by the name of Ren Montgomery. As we join the book, she's clashing with her parents over missing so much school. Where has this new rebellious attitude come from? Well, apparently it was fermented long ago when she was a child, when her beloved teacher, Miss Walters, decided to go against the curriculum set down by the Maker and his cabal and instead teach actual American history, as if to say teach history from back when America was actually a country before the Maker's manipulation. For the unforgivable crime of teaching children about elections, the Magna Carta, and the universal rights of all men, Miss Walters, who they never actually straight up come out and say is Jen Walters, but I like to think that it is, ended up getting herself disappeared by the agents of hand one day in class. And oh man, thank God this is just a comic book fantasy, and we don't live in a real world where anonymous government agents go around kidnapping people willy-nilly. Oh wait. Obviously this traumatic event ended up completely shaking Ren's belief in everything, made worse by the fact that her parents basically told her to shut up and never talk about this to anybody ever, lest she be the next one disappeared by the agents of hand. If nothing else though, this situation did actually end up strengthening her relationship to her best friend, a young girl named Mia. The two knew each other into their teenage years, but things got weird when they hit puberty. You see, Mia grew gills, which is actually pretty huge because this is the first time the main Ultimates book has actually made reference to mutants or mutation. If you've been reading the X-Men book or the Wolverine book, you'll know how serious the Maker's cabal tries to keep all mutants in these very specific locations as to better control and exploit them. This answers the question that yes, mutants do actually end up manifesting in America, they just all end up getting killed when it happens. This is exactly what happened to Mia, and to make things even more horrible, her parents were forced to share the lie that she died in her sleep to everyone around her. Ren, of course, knew the truth, but this was just another thing she was forced to accept by the people in her life, who she thought she could trust. It's for all those reasons and more when the Ultimates started making the rounds on the news and getting called terrorists by the Maker's news networks. Ren refused to believe the hype. She started doing her own digging and asking questions about the Ultimates to pretty much everyone around her, the UPS guy, her next door neighbors, the homeless guy on the street. She had truly stumbled upon a bigger world than she could ever possibly imagine, and eventually she ended up founding herself to a pro-Ultimates meeting, like the ones we had been seeing in previous issues. Apparently these groups were founded and put together by the sort of people who were always against the Maker from the very beginning, and refused to be kowtowed by his apparatus of propaganda. Here's the problem though, these meetings were great for Ren at first, but eventually she came to the very disheartening realization that most of the people talking at these groups had basically been talking about the same things for the last 60 years, and had yet to actually accomplish anything of note. Again, thank God this is all just a comic book fantasy and doesn't reflect anything from our real world. These meetings ended up getting a massive shot in the arm and an influx of new, younger, angrier members once the Ultimates made themselves public to the world, arming these groups with information, with ways to fight, and something to believe in. It's at that point too Ren decided to up her game. She started slow at first, a little anti-Maker graffiti at first, a little public disobedience, before eventually her and her friends were causing traffic accidents to provide cover for Hawkeye, to assassinate some business fat cats, to even hiding Captain America in her house when he was wanted by police. What I love about this is Steve gives the fake name Brett Hendricks, which of course is an old alias that Steve took on during the events of Civil War. Never thought I'd hear that one brought up again. It was after that Ren would end up taking her next steps as a freedom-fighting rebel. Her and her friends would actually blow up a government building. No one was killed, and they gave everyone fair warning to get out. Oh, but the Maker's news networks were sure to make an absolute meal out of all of this, broadcasting stories non-stop, long after the actual events occurred, so much to the point that Ren's parents could no longer ignore the obvious. They knew what their daughter was doing, and they weren't so much mad as they were terrified for her safety, but also for theirs. And you know what? That fear was very well founded, as at that very moment the agents of hand kicked down their door. Both of Ren's parents arguably get off easy, getting vaporized instantly, me. As if they never existed at all. As far as Ren goes, the two agents say they sure are getting sick of shooting teens, but cutting them in half, well, that just never gets old. This probably would have been curtains for Ren and her revolutionary story were it not for the fact that she did go out of her way to build all those bridges in her community. You see, at the last second, she ends up getting saved by her very unassuming next-door neighbors who open fire on the agents of hand. Take that, you fascist pigs. God, and I'm afraid to ask my neighbors for a cup of sugar. Now, don't get it twisted, Ren doesn't get out of this completely unscathed. She runs a couple blocks only to get caught by another agent who cuts her freaking arm off, forcing her to drop the gun she was carrying. Luckily, it gets picked up by, yeah, you guessed it, that homeless guy from the beginning, because you know what, we're all in this together. And it's the only way guys like the Maker and the Agents of Hand ever truly end up getting defeated. And hey, just to truly bring it all together too, Ren ends up getting smuggled out of the city by that UPS driver from earlier on in the story as well. Now that the Agents of Hand know Ren's face, she's going to have to go deep undercover, off the grid maybe, change her name, change her face, whatever it takes. Until the battle is won and the villains are overthrown, this is just going to be her new life now, for better or worse. And it's on that pretty dour note right there the comic comes to a close, everyone, and so that was the Ultimates issue number 16, and man, you know, I talk a lot about just how topical this book feels, how ripped from the headlines it feels, but man, given what's going on in the world right now, in the news, especially in America, a story like this feels almost straight up subversive. Yeah, maybe not dangerous, I certainly don't feel like I'm going to be put on some sort of watch list for buying and reading it. Hell, Dennis Camp basically made that joke already earlier on in the run, when members of the Maker's own cabal asked Nick Fury why they should even bother wasting the time and money putting propaganda into comic books. It's not like anyone actually reads those anymore. What's made this Ultimate series so great is that it's not just your traditional fight the power, good guys versus bad guys sort of story. It explores every single aspect, every single level of what goes into attempting to topple a totalitarian regime as a much smaller force, and as this issue is sure to highlight, it's not always gonna be a feel-good, glorious victory for the good guys. Hell, you're not Iron Man, you're not Captain America, you're not even Hawkeye, you're just a regular person, and to be a revolutionary, to be an actual hero, it takes hard work, it takes giving of yourself, it takes getting involved, it takes building bridges in your community with people you might not think you ever could. It takes sacrifice of both the literal and figurative variety. Ren loses her family, her home, her name, and her arm, all in the cause of trying to do good. Will the Ultimates even know or care what this one person has done? Does that even matter? Or should fighting the power just be its own reward? The book doesn't really give an answer, it tries to be more subtle, more nuanced. And I really appreciate it for that. I feel like a lot of all the love and headlines certainly go to the other Ultimate books in the line, especially Ultimate Spider-Man, and that one really deserves it. But you know what? I think when everything is said and done and we look back at this era of comics, especially in the context of this era in time, I think Ultimates by Dennis Camp, and especially stories like this, are going to deserve their flowers and more. Especially as other works of art out there saying way less challenging things are getting completely censored left, right, and center. As far as this issue goes, I would give it a much-deserved 8.5 out of 10, and I cannot wait to see where the series goes from here. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.